Whether your beer is in a bottle, can, or glass, kick back and relax. It's Better on Draft.
We are live, episode 249, Better on Draft podcast. My name is Ken. It has been a couple weeks since we have been live. We hope you enjoyed the holidays. We hope you enjoyed the handful of Michigan Series episodes, as we will be continuing them throughout the new year. We are excited to announce a handful of upcoming episodes, including one with Arctic Circle, which is going to be a new brewery over in the east side of the state, very east side. I believe it's like 23 in Gratiot area, which is very, very east side of Michigan. And we're also going to be interviewing Parish Brewing out of Louisiana here in a couple weeks. So make sure you stay tuned as we are live 7 p.m. Eastern, betterondraft.tv, facebook.com/betterondraft. It has been just a handful of days since we've been. Guys, what are you drinking? Robert, we'll start with you.
Right now, I am drinking a Lagunitas hop water.
Ooh, are you staying dry this month, or are you just trying to get a little bit of a refresher? Take a break.
Dry-ish. Pretty much, I've been back to my diet, and so I've not been drinking any beer because all of those carbs and high calories. So I have been drinking a little bit of red wine. Nothing beats a good $3 chuck. But other than that, it's just pretty much been the hop water, and a little bit later I'll be cracking open the hop tea, which I got a case of this for Christmas, so I will definitely be enjoying some more of that.
I have got 5 boxes behind me of hop tea, so I've been enjoying that, making sure I got the Black Friday discounts, so I could just get a bunch of it, because I kind of go through like one a day, so really, really good. I was doing a lot of those when I was on doing a lot of travel, and I gave up energy drinks. I am 13 months energy drink free, so no more 4 white monsters a day, down to 0. Yeah, that's kind of it was a big thing for me. Hop tea helped me get through it, but I saw Dan laughing, so I'll call on you next. Dan, what are you drinking over there?
I'm actually regrettably drinking this crowler of Falavome Buzo from Bottle Logic that I managed to put a hole in the side of the crowler somehow.
Oh no!
Driving home today. Yeah, so the WeatherTech things I just put in my car came in pretty handy, so it didn't get on the carpet. So I'm pretty happy about that. But now I have to drink a crowler of it when I had no intent. But that's what we're doing. By the way,
that's what the wife's for too. She can help you out.
No, I don't make her clean up my car when I make a mess in it. That's for sure.
I was referring to drinking the beer, not cleaning the car.
Oh, geez. My bad. Anyways, I don't mention you're 13 months without energy drinks. I'm 13 months without coffee. I'll tell you what, that's something, if you want to get away from caffeine, that's really the thing you should try to do.
Maybe that'll be a next step, but I don't know if you've been seeing on our Instagram, which is at Better on Draft. I've been posting a lot of dry options, kind of the stuff that I have laying around the house that get me through so that I'm not drinking beer all the time. And coffee is definitely one of the things that I'm drinking all the time. So it looks like Nick is joining us here too as we're going to continue. I'm going to pass it off to Wendy while I edit the video. Wendy, what's up? What are you drinking?
I am not doing dry January this month. I'm going to stick with damp January. I have cut back a lot during the week, but today I wanted to make sure that I'm supporting our local businesses still as much as I can. So I have an Ascension peanut butter gorilla juice, and I also have an Austin Brothers pineapple mango smoothie. So I think obviously you guys know my opinion of the gorilla juice. I think it's fantastic, but this pineapple mango smoothie is amazing. So fruity and delicious. I love it.
All right. Well, we'll hand it off to Nick, just so you know we're getting a lot of background noise on your end. But what are you drinking?
That's because I have cousins here right now in the living room. I am committed to dry January, and I got something I was hooked on during the holidays, and it's the Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry. If you haven't tried it, if you can find it, I highly recommend it.
I'm a big fan of the cranberry ginger ale from Canada Dry.
I haven't seen that. I should probably find that.
That is the most suburban thing I've ever heard.
Well, Rob,
I gotta agree, Rob.
Well,
It's the only
Rob, for
soda I
someone who
drink
doesn't
all
go
year
north of
long.
11 Mile,
All year long, unless I'm sick and then I have Verner's.
Wow. And for the record, yes, I do go north of 11 Mile because the Costco is at 13 Mile. Thank you very much.
Oh,
It's
no.
14 Mile that we don't cross, right, Rob? I
There
refuse
it
to go
is.
past there.
14 Mile.
Well, for myself,
I didn't get my reputation order yet. Let me put it to you that way. How about that?
Awesome.
I am.
That'll be next week.
I'm drinking from the Boulevard Brewing Company Steep Drop, which is a
great beer.
nitro coffee milk stout. Yeah, I am enjoying it. Brewed with fair trade small batch coffee. Doesn't really necessarily say which coffee is in there, like a specific brand, but I'll pretend that I'm doing my part in making sure that people are getting, fair trade and small craft and all that fun stuff when you look for coffee. Now, when we decided to do this show and come back the beginning of this year, we were like, hey, Nick, I'm going to need you to mute yourself, by the way.
Oh, sorry. Yep, that's my fault.
Thank you. We wanted to do kind of a reset. We wanted to look at what the last year has been, look at how the show has gone, all the changes that we've made, and look towards the future. And I think what better way to look towards the future than kind of resetting our expectations and chatting about, who we are, what we want, and what we want to do. So I came up with almost like a panel-like mindset for this episode where I'm just going to be asking you guys a handful of questions. You guys were prepared so that I'm not catching you off guard. No, not everyone's going to answer the same questions, so we're not going to just be like, oh, what about you? What about you? This is going to be kind of bantering back and forth. Now, Rob, excuse me, Nick, you said you were going to do dry January. So what was the last drink you had on New Year's Eve 2020? How did you close out your 2020?
Did I drink anything on New Year's?
What was the last drink you had then?
I had a milkshake stout from Rochester Mills.
Nothing wrong with that. That's a good one. What about you, Damp January Robert?
So pretty much the last one that I had had been sitting in the basement. I just figured, you know what? It's the end of the year. Why not crack it open? So I broke open the Mean Mallow Bean from Drafting Table, and just gave it the wax a good marshmallow sniff. It was still there. So props to Mark and Aaron and Kristen and the whole team over there. That is a definitely a high quality beer that is worth its markup on the secondary market.
I do have a bottle still going right behind me. It's the white cap next to the coffee, as that's my little setup for when I'm taking photos on the Instagram. Again, you can like us on Facebook, facebook.com/BetterOnDraft, Instagram, Twitter. We're Bod Podcast on Twitch.tv, and of course, we are Bod Podcast on Untapped. That's where you can find all the fun stuff that we're drinking each and every episode, so maybe you could try to drink along with us. Nick, you're talking about Milkshake Stout. One of the big things that happen every single year is the 12 Days of Milkshake Stout release. But I want to bring this over to Wendy. What is the beer or release that you look forward to every year, including this upcoming year? What are you waiting for in 2021?
So the beer that I wait for every year and the release that I look forward to every year are two completely different things.
Let's go for both.
The beer is the Mad Elf from Trogs. It is my favorite beer of all time. I drive to Ohio to get the beer since that's the closest place. It takes me about 50 minutes to get to Toledo and pick up. I'll usually get a case, sometimes two, depending on how things are going and what I can get. I absolutely love that beer. I will cherish it for as many months as I can. But for the release, it is always No Rules. I love that event. I have a good time. When I go, I have some very fond memories of it, and it's a fantastic beer.
No Rules is always a great party over there. There are a lot of people in good spirits, ready
Amen to
to
that.
ready to drink and have fun. But what about you, Dan? You're out in Arizona.
I am.
Have you grown accustomed to the Arizona beer culture? Like what are you waiting for each year now?
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of have. So yes, but the biggest release I look for every year isn't from Arizona. It's actually from California. Again, going back to Bottle Logic, they release a beer called Dark Star November. Obviously, every November. That's the one I've really grown into waiting for when it comes out. And then the variant they make, the coffee version, which is called Red Eye November. When they do decide to release that every other year or so. So those are the ones I really look forward to each time around.
What about you, Rob? I mean, you're definitely chasing beers a lot. What release is your must have?
I mean, my must-have is pretty much. I just have to agree with Wendy. It's just Perrin's No Rules is one of my favorites that I love to go for every year. I love the variants that they come out with. Even though some of them I wish they wouldn't change. I wish they would keep the rum barrel aged. I wish they would keep even though the Scotch barrel age does come off very weird when you drink it, like right when you get it. But if you hold on to it for about a year, it turns into something amazing. And it has been one of my favorite versions of No Rules to come out. And the ones that they've done this past year with the chocolate peanut butter cup. I didn't get a chance to get the mango habanero because I thought that was just too weird, and it turned out being one of the better ones that people love. So I can't. I mean, as far as what gets released here, that's usually the one that I'm usually going for. Though I think I may be starting to slide a little bit more towards to Transient and their Bark Lord Day and what they've been dropping, because their Kentucky has been a very decent beer these last few years, and very consistent with their barrel aging that they've been doing with that one.
Now, for me personally, I love the main seasonal rotation of Bell's. Bright Right, Bel Air, not Bel Air Brown, excuse me, Bell's Best Brown, Oberon, like the seasonal beers for Bell's. I love the turn of the season, drinking the beers, having the beers come out. But for me, I really loved, and I think Nick's probably the same, the No Rules Day. I think that is up there within releases because I think a lot of people now I've seen a lot of line parties, we could call them, at a lot of these beer releases because people are just sitting in line waiting. What else are you gonna do? Well, you might as well drink. No
Right.
Rules, on the other hand, I mean, that was just the crazy amount of bottle shares that go on there, which I'm going to kind of bring this into the next question. I don't know if it was really in there, but this is going to be an open question to all of you. With COVID, and let's imagine everything's done ish, we're past it, beer releases, lines, etc. Do you want to do bottle shares anymore with random people that you don't really know? Like I just feel very, I don't know.
I mean,
I feel more germophobic
I
these days.
well, hold on. I mean, by bottle share, are we just going to be? Does everyone hit from the bottle? Pass it
Well,
around, like,
I'm
or do we just take hits out of a glass that we bring on our own? Just because of of this, and once we get past it all, doesn't mean you can't necessarily do bottle shares anymore. I mean, I think the fun can still be there. I just think people are just going to be a little bit more conscious about what they're going to be passing around. I don't know. That's just my
And
opinion.
hopefully how they're going to be pouring their beer.
Yeah, I think that's what. Yeah, how they pour the beer. I think that's going to dictate as to whether or not people are going to be doing it anymore.
Well, I guess that's the thing, is that I think for people that generally do bottle shares, I kind of feel that most of them are pretty decent in pouring beers. I mean, now granted, there are some that pour too much, and I'm not going to say any names, for certain Grady pours, but there's I feel like when I'm at a bottle share that everybody knows how to pour. It's just trying to figure out in your head sometimes how much is left in the bottle to share with everybody else, and just to make sure that you're pouring the right amount. And so I don't generally see a problem with it. I see that, when we get out of this, that bottle shares are going to come back. Shit, I think bottle shares are going to be nuts when we get back, and everybody's going to want to do some sort of bottle share or 2 or 3 to really kick things back into a place where we're at some state of normalcy.
I think we'll see people using more paper cups at like public bottle shares, because then you can get a new paper cup instead of using your same glass where you're pouring the bottle, the community bottle, into a glass that you've been drinking out of.
Fair.
Dan, you're awfully quiet over there.
I'm sitting here thinking, you guys, like, when we get back to normal, is it really ever going to get back to normal?
Well, so the normal that we knew before pandemic, no, we will never ever get to that ever again. That normal is dead. It's gone.
We'll get close.
But we might get close, but it's dead. Now we have to talk about what normal is like moving forward.
Well, I think
to Dan's point.
Well, to Dan's point, I think that's why I kind of asked the question was, what do you think the future houses with these types of events, these types of shares and stuff? I don't think that we're going to do it in, No Rules Day is, April, I think, or February. April.
Yeah.
I don't think what's happening in April, but let's say Oberon Day 2022. Like, right. I think based on projections and everything, that things will be a little bit, better for us going out in public. So, Dan, you're laughing. Do you disagree?
A little bit, because I don't think we have enough information yet to think 2022 is going to be good when you're seeing this variant of the virus being resistant to COVID or starting to show signs that it might be. But as far as that goes, I don't think we'll ever go back to, no one's going to want to share. Like Nick was talking about, I was laughing about drinking out of the bottle. Like, everyone make sure to put your tongue in there as you're taking a drink. I didn't know if that was ever a thing.
Well, I'll tell you a story, but go on, Dan. Go.
Lord.
I say this because I was just going through a Instagram, and it was about a company out of Boston, not one that I worked for, different one, and they won like best place to work, and like all of these people are like taking the award, kissing it, and then handing it off to the next person, and I'm like, oh, we'll never do that again, will we? Like those types of things will never happen.
I feel like the Lightning did that with a Stanley Cup this year when they got it. They were all kissing it as so I don't think when it comes to something like that, I don't think people are ever going to change. But as far as things like bottle shares or even things like beer festivals, I think they're all going to be different moving forward. I don't think anything is really going to be the same as it was 2 years ago now.
Well, let's take that in, because I want to get your opinion on one of the questions that I had. Now, in Michigan, at least, tokens are done for. That doesn't mean people won't still use tokens or ticketed parts of their event. It's just not legally mandated anymore. But what do you want to see more of or better at beer festivals? Like, what's a change that you want to see that would help with your beer fest experience? Have you gone to one out in Arizona yet, Dan?
I have. The only one I've been to, though, was you paid per drink. It was a downtown Mesa beer festival. I have not been to one yet. Where it was similar here, you get tokens and tickets for the beers. That's something that needs to go away. I think people can be responsible. You don't need the government telling you this is how you have to distribute beer at a festival. It's not like you're walking into a bar. So it's good to hear things like that are going away in Michigan. That should go away in general overall.
Well, the theory behind that is that because you have tokens or tickets, that you feel obligated to drink that much. And when you go to like a Brewers Guild festival and you have 15 tokens, you're obligated to drink 15. You feel it. Whereas if you go to a festival and you don't have the tokens or anything like that, you can literally just drink at your pace, drink on your own, and go from there. And sure, there's going to be shitbirds everywhere, but there's shitbirds at Brewers Guild festivals. Those tokens are only 50 cents a piece. You ain't breaking the bank to get hammered there. That's if you're turning in the tokens too. But I also think removing the tokens will help with the lines too, because some of those lines get ridiculously long.
Like the lines you start for random.
I don't think that's true.
That was the accidental line that I started at Pigeon Hill for your mom on French Toast, where I was just randomly talking to the owner, and I was talking to Michael Brower. This was years ago though, before we interviewed him, and a line formed behind me, and I didn't even know the line formed until one of my friends, Brock, was just like, "What are you in line for?" And I'm like, "Line? What are you talking about?" Wendy, I interrupted you. I'm sorry. Continue.
No, I think I interrupted you, but I don't think that's true, because I've been to the Great Taste and people form a line for beers that they think they need to have.
Let me rephrase that a little bit. When my girlfriend and I, Julia, poured at the Winter Beer Fest this year, there was a constant forever line at Austin Brothers. And we could have gone through the people a lot faster without it. People are still going to stand in line for, say, we had Toppling Goliath here a month and a half ago. If I'm tapping KBBS, people are going to sit in line, for an hour or two just to get it. But
no, they had a line the entire festival. It was crazy.
Some people
I've never seen anything like it.
Some people's children.
Rob, though, you've been to a lot of festivals, a lot of them with me. What is something you want to change at these festivals that you think would better the festival or better your experience at the festival?
Oh, that's easy. Diversity.
I was going to say, other than more black people.
I mean, if you want to talk about, there's like two ways of that. And no, I mean, Ken is right, because, when I go to a beer festival, I end up counting my allies. I mean, I've talked about it. Harry's talked about it. Wayne's talked about it. Sasha's talked about it, that we count our allies, because we're the gross minority when we go to a craft beer festival. Mm-hmm. So, that is something I would like to see. But if you want to talk about the breweries and the breweries and the staff that are there, it's still the same thing. I still want to see more diversity. I want to see more black brewers. I want to see more black breweries. I want to see women breweries. I want to see the fucking rainbow in a brew fest, where there's, it's not just, one group, one mass group. I mean, it's just, I know that's what it is. And they make great, everyone makes pretty good beer, for the most part. But I want to see this broaden out, and I want to see, the stuff that the Brewers Association has done for diversity inclusion to come into the Michigan Brewers Guild. And I want to see their improvements that they're doing and have that effect go into the beer fest.
Freaking mute button. Hi there. So, Rob, so let me ask you this, Rob. Maybe this might be another topic as we talk about, as Ken talks, this episode being the reset of 2021, and we reflect on 2020. Well, two things come to mind that when you went through your words: Black is Beautiful and Black Calder. Black Calder, right? They're out of GR, Grand Rapids.
Yep.
But also Fresh Fest.
Okay, so those three things, as shitty as a year 2020 was, do you think those three things, the two I mentioned and the third one you mentioned, do you think that this 2020 was a stepping stone to getting to what you and the Brewers Brothers would like to see moving forward? Do you think 2020, as all things considered, how horrible a year it was, do you think it was a good year in that regard?
It's a step. And that's the thing, is that I think for a lot of stuff that happens, whether through our lifetime or other lifetimes generationally, that a step forward is a step forward. And that's what I want to continue to see. And I don't want to see things go backwards. So while I would prefer to see giant leaps, that, steps are steps. And if there is progress and progress continues, then there is, the joy of seeing the progress and the hope that going on to other generations, that progress goes even further when I'm gone.
Okay, there we go.
I'll end it on that. I think that was a really good answer. Kind of want to keep it going. And this is going to be another one I'll kind of do around the horn here. With the year 2020, what was the favorite interview that you had that you either tell someone, hey, we had this great episode, or hey, if you want to listen to what Better on Draft is or what an interview is, you go to this specific episode. So let's start with 2020. What interview do you think was the best one that we had? And I'm gonna start with you, Dan.
I've got two. I think it's a tie. The Jester King episode was great. I love that one a lot. And also The Black is Beautiful. I think a lot of people on the group here are going to say that, but both of those were far and away, I think, the best interviews we've done this year.
Yeah. Sadly that, Nicholas, you ruined my power that day for the Black is Beautiful episode, so we had to record it off of a hotspot on my phone.
Freaking hater.
But that Jester King episode, that's episode 240. We had Jeffrey Stuffings on, and then the
Weathered Souls.
Weathered Souls is the official name of the episode with Marcus over there. That's episode 233. So if you guys want to listen to the two episodes that Dan really thinks shines a light on what Better on Draft is, 240 and 233. Wendy, what about you? You've been here for a whole year.
I am. Oh, yes, that's kind of exciting. My favorite interview, I think you guys are actually going to be surprised, was Goose Island.
Goose Island.
And
I thought about that one too.
It really had to do with the fact that I kind of went into the interview with preconceived notions. And, as a craft beer fan, the whole AB InBev takeover was it hurt when it first happened. So at first I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. And then I started to learn a little bit more about what actually happened and getting their perspective on the takeover and how things are going at the brewery really changed my perspective of how I view what happened and how I view Goose Island.
That is that's episode 243. So we actually had Greg Hall, who was the son of the founder of Goose Island, the inventor of the Bourbon County Brand Stout, who now owns Virtue Cider, which was bought out by ABI as well. And then we had Mike Smith, who is one of the directors over at Goose Island. And actually, that one of my favorite parts of that episode is that he talked about probably one of the hardest things he had to do, which was the infection of 2016, I believe, and 15, and he was open, honest, and really opened our eyes about that process and what they went through and how they, went back the next year looking to keep, not necessarily the consistency, but bring back the customers, because that's a huge, loss of customer base if you have a release that goes as bad as that one did. Robert, what about you?
Well, I would piggyback with Dan on Weathered Souls. That one was I was definitely fanboying like crazy, and I think that was when I actually figured out how to at least do an interview somewhat successfully with my questions. But I would also say Dan Carey with New Glarus, because I really enjoyed just how everything with New Glarus and how big New Glarus could be if they got out of Wisconsin, and he is still just, no, I will be here. I will enjoy selling my beer here, and everybody in Wisconsin will enjoy it. And if you want it, you can bring your ass out here and get it your damn self. And just his story and him and his wife and their story of setting up that brewery and getting it to where it is today was just really enjoyable to listen to.
Yep, that's episode 235, by the way. So go check out New Glarus. Wendy.
I just want to say, too, that I was really impressed with his response to my question about the impact that his wife has had on women in the industry. Because he was flat out, she has said more than once, I want to be treated as a person in the industry. And she has been successful regardless of what her sex is. So I was just really impressed with his response to that.
Nicholas, you're the last one.
Well, I can't say enough about Weathered Souls. The Weathered Souls interview, top notch. I actually like some of the ones, some of the other shows that we've had people that are not breweries or not distributors. So Fermenta, they've been on the show back when we were in the old studio. They came on. We had Tap That AZ early, I think it was like mid through the year, I think last year. Mark Baker, the Siren of Stout. Those are always fun to have, just different viewpoints, us being the quote unquote struggling podcast, Bingo Square, and having those kinds of folks on the show. Those are always fun for me, just to see different takes on what people think about beer.
Yep, you labeled a bunch of them. They'll be in the show notes. For me, though, and I think you guys will not be surprised when I say it, but I think it kind of changed the way it began to change of what Better on Draft is today, and that is the John Mallett episode of Bell's Brewery. I tell you what, I love shows when I don't have to talk much. And John Mallett, we probably could have talked with him for 4 hours and not even reach the tip of the iceberg. The amount of information that he gave us, the amount of information he was just such a down-to-earth person. Now, I want to piggyback off that because there is another episode that we had that was earlier this year. It was the last episode we did in studio, which was the Dark Horse Roke episode with Adam Lambert and John Leone. And when you're talking about a brand like Dark Horse that needs a Lord and Savior to help itself, Adam Lambert and John Leone have been working their asses off to do it. Now there's been a lot of updates, how they're closing the Roke Brewery and moving all production to Marshall, but it was one of those times that you learn a lot from people who are just, they don't, it's just, they're just so down to earth. You're just talking to them as if you just met them at the bar. It's 5:00, they clocked out, you're sitting at the bar with them, and you're just stroke up a conversation. So that Roke episode was 210, and the Bells episode, I believe, was 223. So definitely go check them out. Now, sadly, Wendy, this is going to be where I leave you out here for a question. But this is going to be the quick round. I'm going to go around. What is the most favorite episode that you've done to date with Better on Draft? Dan.
Ooh, this is going way back. Maybe it's nostalgia, and it's something which we could do again. But going way back and doing another metal beer show would be amazing.
That's when we had we had, I believe, I don't know if we had the Michigan Brewing Co. Badass Beer or the Atwater version of Badass Beer at that time.
I feel like we had both, or at least we talked about both.
We did talk about both.
I don't even know if Rob was on the show yet when we did that.
I was not even on the show yet, but I would definitely
you're talking single digit episode 3 or 4. Rob, what about you now that Dan doesn't want to include you?
My favorite show? Oh my goodness. I mean, really? I think it might have been my first one because it was just, I had no idea of what I was, I had no expectations. I didn't know what I was going into. And, I walk into this room with a bunch of dudes I haven't even met in person before. And suddenly we just start up this conversation about beer and shit. It's here we are 5 years later and still doing this shit. And it's just, yeah, I think it for me, I think it would have to be that first one. And as they always say, you always remember your first. So I thought it was, I think it would be that.
Nick, what about you?
I think my favorite episode is the night that Eric Brigman brought in those 2 cases of beer into the studio. I think it was the very first studio.
Yeah, you guys are asking people to go back and listen to those episodes.
Yeah, back in the very first studio, the Ferndale studio. Those are
They're all Ferndale episodes.
Yeah, they are actually all Ferndale episodes.
Could I add an honorable mention here too? What about the Trade Dylan Larkin?
Oh, episode? I was thinking about that just now, but I wouldn't put that in my favorite. I think I would put that in my the ones I would not want to remember.
And that, I believe that was the Hop Slam jury duty episode.
Yep, that was.
Oh, because you
Really
came in a
disappointed
suit. I
nobody
forgot.
said the Detroit Draft Divas episode.
Oh, Wendy.
Just kidding.
So I was kind of expecting one of you guys to bring this up, so I didn't even bother going for it. So I'm trying to figure out the episode number. But the very first episode with Travis Fritz, I have mentioned it so many damn times on this show.
Oh,
But
you have.
easily one of the best interviews we've ever had. But one of the best shows we've ever had was episode, I believe, 89, which is the Cellermans, when we had Ian on with Pure Brews America, which was Shannon Long. And that episode is a fucking hoot. That was one of the many episodes back then when I used to mess up the board and forget to record, and we'd lose 45 minutes worth of audio. But I tell you what, that episode, I had so much fun, and that was one of the very few episodes that I've actually re-listened to, because Ian is such an amazing storyteller. You can listen to him recently on the Blackgrass Cider episode. Just one of the nicest people you'll meet, one of the most humble people you'll meet, and just again a great storyteller. Now let's look towards the future. I mentioned that we got Parish Brewing that were coming on, which I know Dan was one of the people who was excited to do that.
Yes, sir.
But we're going to go kind of counterclockwise. Who do you want to see us get in 2021 interview-wise? Is it a person, a brewery? It doesn't have to be a brewer or an owner. It could be someone within the industry. I'm going to start with Rob.
And actually, while we're talking about that, people who are watching on Facebook Live, throw some breweries or some people in the comments, so we can have those in there too. And by the way, that Old Nation episode was episode 61.
Thank you.
So you are welcome. I would say, and as you brought up Ian, that was the first time that I got to be in an interview with Ian, and I was definitely just kind of like in that moment. So that is definitely a person I would love to have an interview again with. But for 2021, I guess you say my interview whale right now, probably sticking with Dan, Bottle Logic. I would love to talk to Bottle Logic because their beers are absolutely amazing, and it's sort of difficult to get them here in Michigan, but it is possible. And every single one of them I've had has been enjoyable, despite the fact that I am lactose intolerant, and they use far more lactose than I think any other brewery I've ever ran into has used. Hashtag bathroom problems. So that is it.
I feel like I need an extra screen because I can only bring up so many things at once. So now that I am looking at the chat, thank you for the reminder. Matt Bush, back on the conversation about what's going to happen after COVID, says we're going to be so reckless after this is all over that it's going to be another baby boom. Eric Lehman says cheers everyone. Ryan Balicki says cheers lady and gentlemen. Debbie from Tiger Brew says hello, and she's asking if she can do hers over again. Debbie, I tell you what, I don't know how many times I've been commented about how much everyone loved you on this show. I would love to have you on again. That is a no joke. Like we can chat again. We can come up with something. But first of all, every single time I go see my parents, and my parents listen to the show, they will say, "When are you gonna have her on again? She was such a hoot." Using my parents' language, obviously. So yeah, Matt says no love for Carol Baskin. Matt, you got love with the Trade Larkin episode. The Carol Baskin was great, an amazing surprise, and we totally appreciate you for our birthday. But I don't think anything could top you and the drunk Red Wings dude in the Trade Larkin episode.
Let's never talk about that episode ever.
I mean, there are a lot of people who are realizing Matt was right back then. Takes 5 years later. But Nick, what about you? Who do you want us to try to get in 2021?
Oh gosh, that's such a hard question. It really, really is. I would like to see if we can go back and try and get people who haven't been done probably since some of the very earlier episodes and do a check-in with them. None of them are. I should go back and look at the list, but a lot's changed since the first 50 episodes or so. Let's see if we can get some of those people back for an episode or two and just do a checkup with those guys, because I'm sure things have changed, and COVID's probably partially to blame for it. And let's see if they're even still around. Let's get some of those people back.
Yeah,
in
we,
here.
we definitely have a few breweries that no longer exist in our archive of interviews. But Dan, we got Parrish. I know you wanted Parrish, but what about another one?
Rob hit it right on the head. I think we need to get Bottle Logic on this show finally. I mean, they make the best barrel-aged stouts in the country. I don't know how anyone could disagree with that. It's time. We got to get them on here somehow.
Bottle Logic and Wendy.
My whale would be Trogs.
Okay.
I just think they're a fantastic brewery. They've got just a fantastic general line. All their stuff that comes out, everything I've had from them, I really love. They just do things really well. And we don't see a lot of them here. I don't know if it's just overlooked because they don't distribute and they don't do crazy releases like everyone else does. But man, I would love to talk to those guys. Locally though, I would love to have Batch back on. I just think with what they do in the community and the listening to them on other podcasts and just talking to them in general, I think they would be a great addition to the show.
Speaking of other podcasts, obviously on our network, we have the Brews Brothers, who has talked to Batch a handful of times, including both Steven and Kumo. So go check out Brews Brothers on iTunes, Spotify, all the places that you get podcasts. For me, and I don't think it's going to be a surprise when I say it, but I have two that I really, really think I want to get this year, just because I have questions for one, which is Allagash and why they're not in Michigan anymore.
Of course.
And two, Maine Beer Co. I would love to sit down and chat with Maine Beer Co. because I think they have some of the most underrated beers out there, because I think when people talk about East Coast beers, they go for that New England juicy as opposed to the lunch, the dinner, plenty of other great beers. But it's all the other beers that they make, like Zoe, like Mean Old Tom. Like these beers are just so solid, true to style, but like it's got their own spin on it to where I'm not just tasting another amber or another stout or another ale. So those are the two that I would like, and I would love, just because they've been in Michigan for a long time as a craft beer import. We'll say import, but it's still within the country itself. But Abita. I think Abita would tell us a great story for us to get. But now that I have everyone here, your attention is good. We're drinking beers. I'm on, speaking of cranberry, a Belgian triple cranberry from Around the Bend Beer Co. in Chicago. I want to know what your taste buds have changed over since starting Better on Draft, because I have listened to older episodes of Better on Draft, and one of the first things I used to say is I hate barrel aged beers, and it's a funny statement now, but back then I did not like barrel aged beers. I was still a malt forward personality. Like, how many times, even before Better on Draft, like Old 22 or Killian's or Bell's Amber, like those are the beers that I was going for. Rochester Red. How has your palate changed? And for Wendy, we'll say, how about since joining Detroit Draft Divas? Like, how has your palate changed since you've kind of gotten that swarm of people like, here, try this beer, here, try this beer, that's changed your palate a bit?
Considering the fact that I have an IPA in front of me, that should tell you everything. Because when I first joined the Divas, I'm very malt forward. I still prefer a malt forward beer, but I have learned to appreciate different IPAs. I think the New England phase has helped that because it's a good beer for the hop timid. I have spent a lot of time researching different hops and trying to figure out which ones I like and which ones I don't. So I'm much more educated when it comes to making a beer decision. But the fact that 90% of the beer in my fridge are IPAs or even classic styles. I was very much a stout or red girl when I first started out, and now you see a lot more pilsners, wheat beers. I'm working on the pilsner thing, but it's funny that I think a pilsner is too bitter, but I will drink an IPA. It doesn't make any sense, but again, it has to do with the balance of the IPA, I think. For this year, though, I think milkshake IPAs is where my tastes have changed to. I'm obsessed with them right now, so that's where I've gone.
Dan, when I first met you, you were pounding 40s of King Cobra in the back
I
of a
sure
truck.
was.
We started 40 Ounce Friday, which was a fun little pet project prior to Better on Draft, which you began drinking a lot more craft beer with me. So we know you're coming from malt liquor, but how has your palate changed, and has things changed since you've gone to Arizona?
They have not changed since I've come to Arizona, but I used to be able to tolerate IPAs, but now fuck IPAs. They've ruined the beer industry.
Wow.
There's too many of them. There's no reason why I can go to a bar. There's 6 IPAs and one combined between like a brown, a stout, and amber or anything. Like
I actually agree with that.
they've ruined the industry as far as I'm concerned.
Woo!
Yeah.
All
Damn,
right.
that's cold.
Nick, you got to follow that. How's your palate changed?
I am finding myself kind of backing away a little bit from some of the BBA beers, Baron Burble Age beers. I've noticed a change at the Summer Beer Fest. Not obviously we didn't have one that, but back in 2019, when I went in for that Dragon's Milk Triple Mashed, and I wasn't feeling it. And I think
Not a good beer.
and I think, well, everyone
it's
goes,
a good beer.
everyone goes shit crazy for it. But when I had the sip of it at the beer fest, I'm like, what is going on here? It's like, I think the line had finally been crossed, and I'm finding myself kind of backing away a little bit on those. I mean, there's still a few that I'll drink, but this one, it crossed the line. So.
All right, and finally, Robert.
Pretty much I, since the beginning have been stouts. And, then I moved to barrel aged stouts, and it didn't matter what it was aged with. I was trying it. I would probably say where my taste has changed was, a couple years ago when we went to Winter Beer Fest, and I told myself that as much as I hate sours, I'm going to spend this entire beer fest drinking sours, and, almost entire, because when I got there, obviously drafting table was there. They had mean vanilla bean on. So I said, all right, let me get my 15%er in. And then after that, it's all going to be sours. And I started to kind of notice the difference in the level of sourness. And, when there were those super sour ones like from Arclight, or there was one from Brewery Vivant that was there too, that was just like it was like complete eye squinting sour that I just could not take. And then you get to like the lower things that I've been seeing that have been out lately, like from Eastern Market Brewing, where they did they've done their passion fruit goza, their blood orange mimosa goza, the Sour Patch Kids sour, which was definitely one of my favorites. I mean, I grew up with Sour Patch Kids, and I thought that was where sour should be, or like those big 5-cent lemon heads. That's where sour should be, and it shouldn't go beyond that. And so finding those sours that are at that level, that still have a taste and is not just sour, like for me, Arclight and Speciation, because those, they say they come with a flavor, but the only flavor I get is sour and regret. So I have to move to something else. And those other ones that have come out have been really good. So sours have definitely come into play, and I'm glad I can find the ones that I can actually enjoy.
Now, whether you're watching us on betterondraft.tv or facebook.com/betterondraft, youtube.com/betterondraft, or twitch.tv/bodpodcast, I can see all of your chats, and I'm going to kind of go over. So Matt wants to say his favorite was the Joe Dowd episode from Baffin Brewing that we did at Hockeytown. Tito Huffman says that he wants us to get Black Calder on the show as well as bringing back Batch. And
Working on it.
Matt helps us by saying Allagash isn't here because Powers won't buy their minimum order. And I'm going to tie back real quick before I ask the final question. Each of you are going to get a different question. But one of the things that I want to see in festivals now that kind of tokens are done, and this might be a law change, I want to be able to just bring anyone and everyone in for a festival. I don't want to have to be tied down to Fabiano or Rave or Powers or whatever. Like, I want to manage. I want to be able to bring brew pubs in. Like, I just, if I were to host the Better on Draft Festival, which is a great idea to have because obviously it's all draft beer, I would want to not have to worry. Like, and I wouldn't just bring in Michigan people. I'd want to bring in out of state. I'd want to bring in specialties, like how B Nectar brought in Funky Buddha, I believe, for one of their festivals that they had. Like, they brought in Cigar City before Cigar City was in Michigan. These are the things that I would love to see change in 2021, for laws, legalities, and stuff, so that people can bring in and make a bigger, better, festival. Um, Now, I'm going to go through and I'm going to ask one final question to each of you. Each of you will be able to kind of answer it in your own way, and then we're going to take a break. We're going to do the news. We're going to play the game just like a regular episode. Next week, we're bringing in Arctic Circle, which is going to be an upcoming brewery here in Michigan. So that's going to be episode 5 of the Michigan series. And then 250 will be the following week, which is the 22nd. That's Parish Brewing. This is going to be the very, very first question. Wendy, are you ready?
Yes.
Wendy, you have a magic 8-ball. You have the ability to just kill a beer trend in 2021. Gone. No more trend, no more craziness. It could be a trend in beer. It can be an adjunct in beer. It could be a way beer is made. It could be a brewery for all I care. What beer style, trend, etc. do you want to cancel in 2021?
I'm gonna make lots of waves when I say this, but it's a very personal decision. I Simcoe hops and I do not get along. They literally make me want to rip my tongue out. I've actually been doing a flight with a friend and was like rubbing my tongue trying to get the sensation to go away. I would stop using Simcoe hops so often. So that's what I would do if I had the magic 8-ball.
No more Simcoe hops.
Ah,
Nick, I have the biggest question for you.
Oh, joy.
In 2021, I want you to tell me, are seltzers going to continue trending upwards? Are they going to plateau? Or are they starting to fall? We're going to revisit this.
I think they're going to keep trending up.
Trending up.
I think people are going to keep trending up. I think they have caught on so much as part of just drinking pop culture, so to speak. Everyone's starting to put them out. People are still putting them out right now. People are becoming more conscious about what they're drinking now. I enjoy them in the summertime. Don't get me wrong. I still like my other beers, but in the summertime, I want to have a seltzer every once in a while. I think they're going to keep catching on. I don't think they're at the plateau stage yet, and I don't think they're going to go down. I think they're going to keep going up.
Andrew Meros on our Facebook page says they're going to double in market share. I tell you what, as someone, two things that I am planning this year that, we're only 8 days into New Year's resolutions, quote unquote, but one, I have a full goal of, I believe the trend is called Earn Your Beer, where I need to work out more than my alcohol intake. So that is a first goal. I learned how much calories are in some of these beers by tracking them, thanks to Chronometer, and fuck. So I agree. The whole point is that I agree with you, Nick, is that the people who want the mixed drinks might go towards seltzers because, let's use Odd Side for an example, 110 calories, no sugar, no carbs, easy to drink. Sure, it's more than a mixed drink with like a Diet Coke and rum because the rum's only 70 calories. And of course, Captain Morgan's one of the lowest caloric rum or caloric alcohols out there that when you don't get into cordials and aperitifs and all that other stuff. It's also 70 proof, which is why the calories are low. So we had that for Nick. Nick is saying that the trend is going up. Rob.
Yep.
What beer or brewery do you want to see distributed here in Michigan? 2021. You have the ability to bring one brewery into the state. Who is it?
Not named Bottle Logic.
You can name a Bottle Logic. I don't care.
I mean,
no, Bottle Logic might not send their entire, core
But
beers
do they
or all
make
beers.
anything bad? That's the thing.
That's I didn't say that.
I mean, that's pretty much where it would be is Bottle Logic. If not Bottle Logic, then I would probably say something like, I actually would probably say Trillium because they're twice the daily servings and that series that they've been doing. I would drink that shit all day. And for those who in the Michigan area that like Ascension and they're just fruit and they're whatever they're like the Fruit Loops brewed beer, twice the daily serving is basically like the just fruit, but the way that they do it has just been top notch. It's just been amazing with what they do with that daily serving series that they do.
All right, and Dan,
Yes.
you have the ability to create the next beer trend. What is it?
Oh, Jesus. The next beer trend, and this is kind of stupid, but
It's not stupid. You
off
have
the
the
top of
ability.
my
This
head.
is for you, Dan. This is your world.
the next beer trend needs to go back to making beers without a million different additives or adjuncts into it, because I shouldn't have to fight to find a stout that doesn't have 15 different things added into it. Just give me a damn stout that tastes like a stout, or a brown that tastes like a brown. I don't need everything. So that would definitely be the next trend I'm going for.
If you were doing a Dennis Leary 1990s stand-up, you'd be saying you want a stout flavored stout.
Pretty much, yeah.
Pull your pants up.
All right. That's going to do it. This is going to be a quick round robin as we're getting ready to go on to break. We're going to be doing the news. The news is recorded live on the Friday night right after the podcast, but of course it gets released a couple days after our podcast. So this is very, very simple, very, very easy. Round the clock. What has been during this COVID time, and we've all been stuck inside, the favorite thing that you have learned to do, watched, played, like what is the thing that has kept your mind straight during this time? Nicholas,
Binge watching television shows.
Nick, give me one. What's your favorite?
Well, right now, Schitt's Creek, love it. Right now, wife and I, we're doing Cheers.
Cheers. Okay.
Ooh,
Okay.
that's fun.
Wendy, what about you?
So I actually have two.
Okay.
Sorry, I know it's supposed to be quick. My grandma and I, through the entire pandemic, every night we watch Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy together. So that has been a really big deal to me, especially with the whole Trebek passing away this week has been very emotional for me and her, even when we're watching the show. So that's been really important. And cooking, because my grandma's on this whole fresh foods diet. So I have had to learn a whole lot of new cooking skills in the last year. So cooking has been it.
Robert.
It's what's keeping me sane.
With me, it started with learning guitar, and then I just stopped, but I need to get back to that. Binge watching things like The Queen's Gambit and My Hero Academia, and learn how to be a dad. Shit.
I mean,
Yeah, I'm still figuring that out too.
Just a dad of teenagers. That's even worse.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to start
Kudos,
that,
by the
Rob.
way.
Dan.
actually figured out something. It took me a little while, but I've actually gotten really into buying and listening to vinyl.
Oh no!
Yeah,
That's such an expensive hobby.
I was gonna message you, Dan, earlier. Did you have a death metal or goth, whatever kind of band in vinyl earlier today? Did you post that?
Yeah. We're not going to talk about the band because there is some controversy with one of the members there right now.
Okay, but that was a vinyl record then.
Yes, that was.
Nice.
So that has been the obsession as of late, and that has really kept me sane.
So for me, before we take our break, probably my favorite binge, and I'm going to go with the big binge because Queen's Gambit was great, but I finally caught up or actually watched the entire Brooklyn Nine-Nine series. Great show. I also played I have this tendency, like a lot of people, where I buy a game on discount and then never play it. And I wound up playing and beating 2 games that were really good that I wish I had played when they first came out, and that's Star Wars Fallen Order and Far Cry 5, along with the additional content of New Dawn. So both of those were really, really good, and I made a commitment to myself not to buy new games until I started beating some of these older games, so I'm sure I'll start hammering into that. But guys, Better on Draft 249, we have reset. It is 2021. Nothing can go wrong this year for Better on Draft, that is. And that's going to do it. No matter what you think of your beer, we think it's Better on Draft. Have a good night.
Peace.
And we are back. Better on Draft podcast episode. Whoa, no, wait. This is the news. We're not doing that anymore. The news. January 8th. 2021. I can cut it. Let's try that one more time. 3, 2, 1. And here we are, the news for Better on Draft podcast, January 8th, 2021. My name is Ken. Thank you so much for joining us. You can join us live Fridays, 7 p.m. Eastern is when we start podcasting. Every single Friday that we're live, you can go to betterondraft.tv or facebook.com/betterondraft. Now, during the episode 249 that we recorded earlier tonight, Dan, you had mentioned the metal beers, and I wanted to make 2 points. One, the Unibrew episode that we had was an amazing episode, which they were in here because I believe they were doing a beer metal collaboration with Megadeth. But 2, if you're watching the video, which of course you can see the videos on our Instagram TV, or you can see them on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch, I got myself a can of Trooper over here. So I am going to be drinking some premium British beer. But let's kind of go around and see what everybody is drinking. Nick, you're staying dry. You still got your little, Sprite Max or whatever?
Yeah, I put it on the other desk. Yeah, I still have it. Yeah.
Nick left his soda somewhere else. Robert, what are you drinking?
The Citra Bomb one, the from Hoplark, the hop tea is my.
I have not gotten into the Citra Bomb yet. I love the super hoppy black tea one, the hoppy one as they call it.
Yes.
Easily one of my favorite hop teas. But they do a monthly release that's a special release, as well as I believe quarterly releases for special releases. So if you are a fan of hop tea or hop lark or are interested, one, you can get it at Whole Foods. That's where their major distro is. They do not sponsor us. This is just me giving a free plug because I love it. Sadly, you can't get it yet at Zatuna Liquor over in Rochester Hills, just south of M59 on Rochester Road. But tell Jack you want some NA options because he's been slowly adding to his NA options. But tell him you want it. Wendy, you're not dry. What are you drinking?
I am still on the Austin Brothers pineapple mango smoothie, but I do have a Dark Horse Scotty Karate in the wings to drink next. I stopped at a new beer store on the way. They're not actually new. I haven't been in there in a very long time because I wasn't sure what type of craft beer options they had. So I thought I'd check them out on the way home, and they had Scotty Karate in their 5 for $5 bin at the front.
Oh, Jesus.
Like an entire thing of it. And I was like, I will take that, yes.
Ken
$1
drinks those at
bottle?
10
Are you
a.m.
kidding
on
me?
a Sunday.
That's a 10% beer. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, that's a good deal. He's like, that's a great deal. I'm like, oh, I know.
Yeah, Dan, for those of you wondering, Dan came over to my apartment because I used to live right by Ford Field for a Lions game. And I said, grab me a beer from the fridge. And he grabs me probably the highest ABV beer that I have in the fridge. And I'm like, and
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that was a barrel-aged Scotty Karate, too.
I
That
think
wasn't
it
just
was.
a regular Scotch ale. But Dan, what are you drinking?
Oh boy. So Nick had mentioned Eric Walters and Tap That AZ for that episode. Made me remember I have this in my fridge, so I have to try it or I never will. I do have the Tap That AZ Hazy IPA.
Oh, fun.
So
Tap That AZ Hazy.
I am like scared to drink this because I might projectile vomit.
Folks, I want to see this. You can get the live reaction better on Draft.tv. He says
And
no.
that's the only sip of that I'm taking. Anyways,
I'd say give it to your wife, but you might think I'm asking her to
Wow.
clean it up for you.
she doesn't like IPAs. It's if you like IPAs, you'll probably like this. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna let it go to waste. I'll drink it, but that'll be the only IPA in 2021, I'm sure.
I will make sure to clip this and send it to Eric myself. But as always,
Oh, he'll think
Um,
I'm saying it's bad. Don't let that ruin it for him.
if you like it, it's a good beer. If you don't, that's all that matters. I didn't say it's not if you don't, it's a bad beer. It's just if you like it, it's a good beer. But as always, with our news,
Here is Robert with the beer news.
and I'd be remiss to not say the news is brought to you by North Center Brewing over in Northville, Michigan, just south of Baseline Road over on North Center Road, hence the name North Center Brewing. They do have patio seating. Yes, it's January, and no, they don't care. Go freeze your ass off and drink some beer over at North Center.
Hell yeah.
Hopefully, I believe for those of you in Michigan, 15th is, I believe, the quote-unquote end of the current restaurant closing.
Yeah,
So
good luck.
hopefully that will open up and they can at least open up with social distancing and get some people in, because I just don't want to see them go like a lot of the breweries. But
Right.
Rob, you got some news.
All right, so I'm going to start local, and there was one that came out about a local wholesaler that got into some trouble this week. A place called the Woods Wholesale Wine in Grosse Pointe Woods, which is, I don't know how far away from Detroit, but they're in the suburbs, and I don't care. They had to close for business after sending beer to an in-state address. And I know for some of you guys that are out of states, that have that ability to get beer shipped to you while you're in, for those who live in a state like California, but Michigan is Michigan, and Michigan prohibits that practice. So the owner, William Matuk, he stated that an employee mistakenly filled the order and feels like it was part of a sting operation by Michigan's Liquor Control Commission. And the employee shipped 3 bottles of beer. Unfortunately, there's nothing in the news I could find. I could tell you what those bottles were, but the punishment for this infraction forces the business to either shut down for 7 days, or they can appeal. But if they appeal and lose, they would lose their liquor license. So this past Monday, on December 28th, they decided that they were just going to close for the 7 days. Now, this, I know that we were talking about our questions, what we were going to be going through in a previous episode, and one of those was going to be talking about laws that we would potentially think about changing. And this is kind of one of those that I would love to see change, because if California can ship in state, why can't we? But of course, I think we already know the answer to that. And, when we are in a state that inexplicably can only self-distribute 2,000 barrels, while Ohio can self-distribute 1 million, it's just kind of Michigan. So I'm curious if, I'm going to start with Dan on this one, is what do you see, I guess, in terms of these laws, would you like to see that change state to state, and maybe even possibly with the variances of what we have from state to state, that we could ever get to a point where the liquor laws could be more federalized?
They need to be. So I don't know. Can you get beer shipped legally from out of state into Michigan? I should ask because I don't know.
I mean,
Legally, no, but there's loopholes people have found, like Tavor, which you can use the code Robert, Robear, if you're a first-time user of Tavor. It's one of those laws. For me personally, I haven't figured out how they did it, but they did it. But I personally tried to get Partake, which is a non-alcoholic beer, into delivery to me here in Michigan. But because Michigan considers non-alcoholic beer as beer, I can't.
Yeah. So
Go on.
at least with Arizona, you can't have beer shipped in from out of state or within the state. It's not allowed. In fact, we had Tavor briefly, and the attorney general here shut it down and told them no and sent them a cease and desist over it. The problem is I don't know how you federalize it. The way our country's set up, each state's going to have its own set of rules. So, kind of like going to the marijuana laws. I mean, one body can say, yes, you can do this, but there's going to be another body that says you can't. When you're dealing with 50 different entities here, it's tough to make one uniform type of law that'll work for everyone.
Anyone else notice that when Dan brought up weed, there was a police siren
Could you
that
hear
went
that?
off?
Oh,
Yeah,
that was
they're
loud
right
and
outside.
clear.
Yeah. they're
Everyone's
right
like,
outside.
"Oh, he's talking about weed. He must have it."
It's legal here.
Yeah, I mean, it's legal here in Michigan, but if you get pulled over by a border patrol, you're fucked, because they're a federal agent. They could be
Yeah.
like, "We don't follow Michigan laws."
I definitely wouldn't mess with the Homeland Security guys here, especially with something like that.
nope.
No. So within the realm of this wholesaler wine organization, it's come out that they had been in trouble before for doing it. So it's not surprising that the MLCC tried again. Just like we know that I won't name the brewery because it's unfair to them, but the MLCC put a 20-year-old with a growler of a brewery to go to that brewery and get a fill of that growler. And that was the sting. And they got in trouble, and there was another brewery who, this was before the major notification that happened at the Brewers Guild conference in 2019 about the fact that you need to register every single one of your beers with the TTB in Michigan. That when they came in and they saw beers that weren't registered, they took off every single beer of this brewery except for any beer that they distrowed, because obviously those beers are registered.
Right.
I think, beer, the laws, you should know, and whatever your point of sale is or your online ordering should stop that in the first place. Like, that's not something you should put in there. So I think there's a lot of fault. Now, I could tell you this is a dumb as fuck law and still say, well, you got to follow the law and work on changing it.
Right.
We had now our big governmental news person, which is our webmaster, Bill Carney. Great guy. I appreciate all the information he gives us. But he mentioned that there was a bill that was passed. It looked like a bunch of tie bar bills, which is for Michigan, obviously. I know you guys are not in Michigan. Not everyone who's listening is in Michigan. But I'm going to give you a little bit of history on Michigan politics. So bills 934, 1138, 1139, and 1140. So obviously, if one fails, all fail. Kind of thing. That's what we talked about when we had Pauline Wenzel on earlier last year. There's a lot of things, including in-state distro of beer. Now, I don't know if it was from stores to households or from breweries to households. There's a lot more, but when we were talking about the changes that need to happen within the state, this got pocket vetoed, and I learned a lot about Michigan and government and stuff. So pocket veto means that the amount of time between the passage of the bill and the change of the House and Senate and the state, whenever a bill gets signed, the governor has 14 days to sign it. So they signed it within the 14 days of the changeover of our state Congress. Therefore, it was pocket vetoed and never brought up. Never signed. Nothing happened. I know we don't talk about politics too much, but this is more of what politics is as opposed to partisan politics. You can yell at me or yell at Whitmer or yell at whatever, like that's all. You could do that all on your own. I'm not saying any of that. But I would love the ability to import and export beer, liquor, and wine, especially in our state, because we are one of the sneaky craft liquor company like states in this entire country. We have a huge wine group here that you can just ship out already. So why does wine, which gets taxed as beer does, not able to do it? So there's a lot of things that I wish we could do, and I hope that this year you have representatives like Weber over in Rochester Hills who did the outside drinking law, Wenzel, who was a huge sponsor of that huge tie bar law, that we can get some better results. And the people who are fighting these are your major distributors, because if you can ship in, if I could buy Bottle Logic online and it gets shipped to me, that means that's money not going to Powers or Rave or Oath or M4. And those last two probably aren't going to be where the first two are, but I'm just stating that if I buy X from Bottle Logic, that means I'm not buying Y from Meyer that was distributed by Oath.
Right.
Am I right? Am I wrong? I mean, I want your guys' opinion. I talk a lot.
It makes sense, because that is that we have the system that all of this goes from the brewery to the distributor to us, or for those who are local that have delivery from breweries, that it goes from the brewery and self-distributed to us. And it's a system where at some point you're taking money away from somebody, and that's
I can buy speciation right now and get it delivered to my house. Why can't I buy Barrel and Beam and get it delivered from Barrel and Beam to my house? Because I didn't get it delivered from like a third party. I didn't get it delivered from Cultivate but again, we also have Meyer and Shipped, which I can buy alcohol and beer on Shipped. There's a lot of things that just don't make sense, and I think it's just a lot of bureaucracy that needs to get fixed.
Right. Oh, Wendy, Nick, you got anything on that?
I do. So I agree with like 99.9% of what Ken is saying.
So what's the 0.1%?
100%.
Let's fight.
I agree with the fact that we need to change our distribution laws. Definitely. Like, I would love to be able to just order whatever beer I want and have it sent to me. However, when it comes to this particular story, they know what the laws are. You have a new employee that's doing something that could literally lose your license. You didn't train them properly. And this is the second time it's happened. Regardless of whether it's a sting or not, you know what the laws are. And we have a lot of businesses that are busting their butts to make sure that they are completely complying with the laws so that they can stay in business and keep their employees afloat. Don't come to me and complain when you broke the law and now you can't keep your employees employed for a week. That's just my opinion.
I mean, that's what I agreed on. Like, just because you don't like the law doesn't mean you don't have to follow it.
Right.
Exactly. And I agree 100%. Those laws need to change. Like, in Michigan, they're definitely archaic, and it sucks for us and everybody around us. But these are what the laws are. Fucking follow them.
They're the laws.
They're there for a reason.
Right. Yep. Well, sometimes the reason is stupid, but
yeah,
it doesn't matter. Change the law.
Hence the reason, change the laws.
Absolutely. Change the law. Yep. Don't just break it.
Yep.
Right. All right. Well, we'll move on. We'll stay in we will go a little bit less Metro Detroit and actually go Detroit, because Grosse Pointe Woods people claim they're Detroit. Man, I'm just bitter today.
They're a little closer than me.
True.
I'm definitely suburban.
So details have been released regarding a free beer for Detroit Lions fans. I'm not sure if there's been many that have heard about this. But this does not come courtesy of Kwame Kilpatrick, whose debt goes into year 13. I believe it's year 13. a deal between, so basically the story is that a deal between Bud Light and the Denver Broncos kicker Brandon McManus was made, where McManus would win free beer for the Broncos fans if he broke the NFL record for longest field goal, which of course stands right now at 64 yards, but is held by former Denver Bronco and current Detroit Lion kicker Matt Prater. Prater kind of wanted in on this deal, so basically a bet took place. Whichever of the two kicked the longest field goal this season would win free beer for their city. McManus's longest kick was 58 yards. Prater's was 59. So people are eligible to get themselves a free can of Bud Light. And to do so, Dan has already lost it.
This guy,
To do so, I know, but the public needs to know. But if they're interested in getting a free can of Bud Lights, you would need to buy a 6-pack between now and January 31st, and then go to mybeerrebate.com. And
Wait, what city is that in?
It's in the state of Michigan.
Michigan.
It's in Michigan. Isn't it illegal to do that? You shouldn't have to buy something to get something.
No,
alcohol in Michigan.
You have to buy a 6-pack to have a rebate. So because you can't give away free beer in Michigan.
Oh, okay. Oh, that makes sense then.
You have to buy
I'm like, wait,
it.
you can't buy something to get something. Though?
Yes, I see what you're saying, but that is not the.
Makes more sense. Well, but of course, Budweiser's going to figure that out.
Right.
Well, we have. I was talking, and there's one of those, Hop Passport, Craft Pass organizations. And a lot of them just simply say buy one, get one free. Well, you can't get one free in Michigan. We've learned that with all of our Better on Draft March Draftness that we do, which we still have to celebrate the Baffin March Draftness one day for winning 2020, which we'll obviously do for 2021, which we need to buy a keg and give it away. But we're buying a keg for 144 of our friends. That's what we're doing. You have to be very, very specific. And I'm always making sure we're very, very specific when we talk about it. It looks like Robert had to run away for a minute.
I just want to say something real quick. I mean, being a football fan here, why would Brandon McManus want to try and make this bet against someone who's kicked the field goal like Matt Prater?
Why is he making this with a known alcoholic too?
Yeah,
why is?
Yeah, that was.
That's why I was like, really?
If you guys are not a football fan, Wendy, Matt Prater is a known struggling alcoholic.
He's on the Lions because he had a drinking problem and got cut.
Yep.
He's like a sip away from being banned from the league. So why are you bringing this guy into giving out beer? That's
right.
But
and didn't he have a photo with a can of Bud Light too?
Probably.
I think he did.
I'm sure he drank it right after.
Oh, I'm sure he had like a sip. But that part aside for just one moment, McManus's longest field goal is 58 yards. That's still pretty good. But if you can't even get in the same ballpark as Prater,
you gotta have goals.
I mean, the place to do
he's got himself a Super Bowl championship. He doesn't need anything else. That's something that any other Lions player will never have.
But hey, a free beer for a
goals.
Lions fan. I mean, why not? Why not?
What are we the
Cleveland
Browns now? Is that what we are?
Well, the Browns are going to win on Sunday, anyways.
They might.
Moving
Get
on.
out of that conversation.
Sorry, Rob.
I don't even know who they're talking about anymore.
Oh my goodness! All right,
football.
Stepping out of Michigan on this one. I was just reading about this today, and I'm not sure if this is a practice that is going on in other states, but this was an article I found that was going on, something that was going on in New Jersey that I was curious about. It's called doing mobile canning. And with the talk of breweries trying to find ways to continue to get their products out, there's some New Jersey breweries that might be able to turn to mobile canning, where a company like the company I came across was Tripod Canning, that would show up with the equipment and allow you to can your products. They basically recommend a brewery have a flat 8-foot by 20-foot workspace within 15 feet of finished ready-to-can beverage. And their canning machines can go from 187 milliliter skinny can to those 19.2 ounce stovepipes. And it was very interesting to kind of see that, because obviously we've got a lot of small and mid-size. Well, the mid-sized breweries obviously are doing a bit of their canning on their own, but the smaller ones, that they're kind of doing it, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot that's being canned by them. So I'm actually kind of curious if, for the smaller breweries that are here in Michigan and really in other states, do you think that smaller breweries could actually benefit from this, as opposed to going to, well, I don't even know where else they would go to other than like a regular canning facility where they would just take their product, or get their own canning machines. But do you see there being a benefit in something like this?
I do. So I went to a sour beer festival in Indiana, and we stopped at a brewery on the way that they actually had a mobile canning unit that was canning their beer while we were there. And they wouldn't have been able to distribute if it wasn't for that fact, because they didn't have a canning machine. So they were able to actually we all actually got beer. They weren't planning to give it to us, but because we were divas and it was a woman-owned brewery, they sold us a 4-pack without the labels on it yet. But they were canning their beer while we were there, and they wouldn't have been able to do that because they were still a brand new brewery. They didn't have all that equipment yet, but they were able to sell that beer because this mobile canning unit was around.
See, that I do kind of like that, just because, if they're small and they want to can it and get it out, they can get it out. And if they do get bigger, then, they can get their own canning unit and go
Right.
go into that direction. So, that would be awesome. Nick, what do you think about that?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Wake up, man. Benefit of small breweries being able to use mobile canning options.
I mean, if they have the working capital to make that something happen, then why not? Why hold back these smaller breweries? Why? I mean, we the one thing we love to see growth in this business, growth in this, not just in Michigan, but growth in craft beer across the country. Why do people have to hold some of these smaller, people, and I use that in general terms, why do we have to try and make it so much harder for these smaller breweries to do bigger and better things? It may not be in the wheelhouse up in the front part, the first 12, 24 months of them being opening, but maybe they decide later on down the road, okay, let's do this. Why do we put roadblocks for these businesses?
Especially right now.
Especially right now, when people are literally struggling to try and stay open. Something like popping in my mind for a second. Loaded Dice Brewing. They basically open in the middle of a pandemic. Essentially, they were on our show. They were on the show right before it started, right, Ken? Guys, yep. Everyone's on
January.
it. Yep. So, and then they, opened up during a pandemic. They figured out how to sell to people. Breweries like that, I don't know what their plans are, but why do we put all these roadblocks for businesses like that are trying to just stay open and ride the storm out? Makes no sense.
Right. And actually, it kind of made me think of kind of an auxiliary question to it, but I guess to either Ken or Dan, would this be seen as something better, worse, or about the same as something similar to like Black Calder, where they generally don't have their own facility, that they're brewing out of another brew house and doing that? So
look at Nowhere in particular. They don't brew at their own brewery. They brew at other breweries, and I could only assume that either they bring in their own mobile canning line, or they hire a mobile canning line to show up to brew whatever brew that they make at that house.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't it also kind of like breed more collaboration efforts too, when you see breweries like nowhere in particular. Black Calder. You said,
Yeah.
doesn't that just inspire more collaboration? And doesn't that kind of help? I mean, it's the breweries helping breweries out kind of approach. Doesn't that just inspire more collaboration? Why we should be seeing more of that? I mean, breweries helping breweries and not trying to make things difficult for one another. I mean, yeah, we're businesses. Wendy has her hand up.
Right.
Dude.
Wendy?
So speaking of that, I just learned that I can order broadleaf beer and have it delivered to my house so many days of the month through Beer Me Michigan, Beer MI Michigan, whatever, however you call it. I know that Black Calder is brewing out of broadleaf.
Yep.
And I can get Brewery of Avant beers through that same order form. I would love to be able to get Black Calder beers. I just want to throw that out there because I'm hoping they're listening to us. That's it.
Hopefully we will get them on pretty soon. All right.
Let's get one more in for the show.
Yeah, so I'm going to go into this one here. And of course, we're coming into the usual where we're getting close to Super Bowl Sunday, and it's usually the place where Budweiser and other big beer companies like to take shots at craft beer, with their peach pumpkin ale jokes and things like that. But now it looks like I'm seeing some shots being taken by whiskey. There was a new commercial, which I just saw it not too long ago, and it came up in an article too. It was a commercial from Jim Beam, where a customer walks in and is stuck trying to figure out what he wants to have after his last beer, and then you've got your stereotypical IPA people saying get an IPA, then basically a woman in lederhosen and all just like full Oktoberfest gear telling him to get a German wheat. And then this dude that basically looks like Gandalf's younger cousin shows up and tries to offer him a stout. But in the end, he settles for a highball, which, basically is just scotch and soda. Now, we've seen a lot of the figures from the last few years, and spirits have had a pretty decent market share. And it never really seemed like spirits were ever threatened. So I was very curious as to why spirits now are taking the shot at beer. Looks like more specifically going mildly at craft beer. And it makes me wonder, is this going to be the new game? And if this happens, does big beer back down, or does big beer double down? And just kind of side question, basically with that question or with that commercial, who do you think is going to be the first like mid to large craft beer brewery that's going to make an IPA aged in goat's milk?
What the hell?
If you see the commercial, it's like this dude just sitting there is like have an IPA. It's been aged in goat's milk, and the camera pans to a goat on a leash.
Oh dear God, that means somebody will.
Somebody's gonna do it.
It can't be much different than these milkshake IPAs people lose their minds over.
I'm obsessed right now, I'm telling you. I don't think that they're milky though. But
all I think of is dropping curdled milk into a beer.
Are you drinking them?
There you go.
Have you tried them?
No, and I never.
No, you haven't tried them, so you can't talk about it. Stop. It's the lactose that makes it milk. Shush.
Yeah, there's still.
You drink all that lactose in your biologic stuff.
I do, but that's not like dropping curdled milk into an IPA. Here's your cottage cheese and your hops.
Oh, come on, Dan. Stop.
Sorry.
I can't even stand cottage cheese.
I will say there's been some that I didn't like. But I actually kind of think it's kind of funny. You think that some of the spirits have gotten a lift because of all the beers that are being barrel aged.
Oh, for sure.
Because all the people that wouldn't drink liquor before, but now they like bourbon barrel beer, they're going to try bourbons. You think that
they'd be more
that
on
would cross over. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Ken?
I mean, I love these commercials. I don't take any of these commercials to heart. I know that there are a lot of times where people will look at the commercials and they just It's almost like they were attacked personally, and I'm just like, it's. I take it back to the Budweiser, the Budweiser peach bourbon barrel aged
Oh my
beer
God.
slam right after they bought Elysian, and Elysian had one of those beers, and I'm like, well, you have to look at marketing, and I feel that when you're marketing Bud Light, you are marketing against Budweiser. Like, people don't understand that you can market against your own. Like, Diet Coke is an anti-Coke drink. So
Yeah.
just
What?
because it's in your repertoire, it's in your group of um, whatever you're selling, your portfolio, doesn't mean that you're not trying to sell against it. Like, Sprite is an anti-Coke because it's caffeine free. Like, these are things that people just don't understand. So when, Budweiser or Bud Light usually makes a comment about craft beer, even though ABI owns Goose Island and Elysian and Craft Beer Alliance and all these other groups, they're selling Bud Light to people who drink Miller Lite and Coors Light and Mick Ultra. They ain't selling Bud Light to you, so stop. Like, I just
Don't get mad about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not a place to get mad.
I actually had a friend at one point when one of the Budweiser commercials came out against craft beer that like went on her Facebook and found all of her friends that disliked or that liked Budweiser and were like, "Why did you like this page?" Blah blah blah. And I was like, Clydesdale horses, hello. Like I I like stuff on Facebook because I want to see what they're saying. I don't necessarily want to buy their product. But I just thought that was funny that you're like people, the craft beer industry, and you're always going against each other, even if it's the same product, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I agree with you. It was a horrible way to say it and bad radio, but whatever.
That's all right. That's going to do it, guys. Better on Draft. This is the news, January 8th, 2021. We are in the new year. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. I have been hard at work going over the King of the Hill game, which the last King of the Hill winner, which is Kevin DeGrood, owner and brewer over at North Center Brewing, is obviously not here. Therefore, we're going to have a new winner tonight. So check us out on IGTV. If you're listening to the news portion of our podcast, IGTV, that's Better on Draft, Instagram.com/Better on Draft. Check us out over at IGTV to find out who won the King of the Hill game. That's going to do it. Better on Draft, the news. And no matter what you think of your beer, we think it's Better on Draft. Have a good night.
Peace.